The creature from the sea, the sky was gray above the ocean. Thick clouds rolled over the waves like slow monsters. Wind rushed past the cliffs. But Jack didn't seem afraid. He stood at the edge, bare feet on the wet rock, staring out into the deep water. Lyra watched him from behind a stone pillar. She didn't understand what he was doing. No one stood that close to the ocean. Not on this planet. Not ever. To her people, the ocean was death. Jack took off his jacket and tossed it aside. He rolled up the legs of his pants. Then, without a single word, he stepped forward. "Wait!" Lyra shouted. She didn't plan to. The words just came out. "What are you doing?" Jack turned slightly. He smiled at her. "I'm going for a swim," he said. Lyra blinked. She didn't understand the word. "Swim?" "Yeah. You know, in the water. You can walk into the ocean and come back?" He laughed. But it wasn't cruel. "No, not walk. Swim. I'll show you." Before she could ask more, he turned and ran. Then, with a clean leap, he dived straight into the water. Splash. Lyra gasped and ran to the edge. The sea was churning. She saw bubbles rising. A few ripples spread out. Then, nothing. He was gone. Panic hit her chest. Her heart thumped wildly. She looked around. No one else was nearby. Should she run for help? But the elders would say this was proof. Proof that the human was cursed. Proof that the sea was still hungry. Her eyes stayed on the waves. 1 minute passed. Then another. What if he drowned? What if she just saw the last human alive on Valeth vanish forever? Lyra had never touched the ocean. Her people came from dry lands, great deserts far from the coast. Water was sacred and feared. They called it the sleeping god. It gave life, but also took it. Ancient stories spoke of monsters beneath the waves. Some even said their first ancestors came from the sea and were punished for it. Jack didn't believe those stories. He said humans came from a planet covered in water, called Earth. "Your kind lives inside the ocean?" she had asked once. "Not inside," he answered, laughing. "But close. We swim. We dive. Some even live on boats for years." It sounded like madness. But now, he was gone, and she was still staring at the waves like a child waiting for a ghost. A sudden splash made her jump back. Something moved in the water. A shape. It was fast, smooth. Lyra reached for her side blade, but then froze. Jack's head popped out of the sea. He shook his hair back and grinned at her. "You look like you saw a sea demon," he said. She didn't answer right away. Her mouth hung open. "You were under there," she whispered. "How long?" "Only a few minutes. I was checking the rocks below. Some tech from our scanner pod sank last night." He held up a small silver piece. Blinking lights showed it. Was still active. "Found it," he added, tossing it onto the rock behind her. Lyra didn't move. "You can breathe under the water?" Jack smiled again, but this time it was softer. "No, I hold my breath just long enough." "How long?" "About 4 minutes, if I don't panic." She blinked. "And you didn't panic?" He tilted his head. "Should I?" She stepped back from the edge. Her knees were weak. "You shouldn't be alive. No one comes back from the deep." Jack climbed out of the water. His skin glowed from the wetness. He looked calm, like someone walking out of a warm bath. "Not the deadly ocean. Maybe that's why your people are scared," he said. "They don't know what's really down there." "We know enough," she said quickly. "Old gods sleep beneath the waves. They punish those who go too far." Jack picked up his jacket. "Maybe they're just waiting for someone brave enough to come say hello." She stared at him. Her hands trembled. Part of her wanted to run back to the village, tell the elders what she saw, but another part stayed still. That part wanted to see what he saw. "What else is down there?" she asked quietly. He looked at her for a long moment. "Something old," he said. "Something glowing. It's calling to me." Lyra felt a chill. "Don't go back," she whispered. "I have to," he said. And maybe, one day, you'll come too. He walked past her, water dripping from his clothes, leaving footprints on the stone. She stayed at the edge, and behind her, the sea watched. He should be dead. But he's not that night. Lyra could not sleep. She sat near the village fire, her back straight, her eyes open. The others sang old songs, their voices soft in the wind. But she heard nothing. All she could see was the human diving into the sea, disappearing, returning. He should not have returned, not just because of the deep water, but because the stories were clear. Long ago, a warrior from their tribe dared the waves. He wanted to prove his strength. He walked into the sea, shouting at the gods. They say he vanished under a calm surface. Never rose again. Not even his bones were found. Since then, no one touched the deep. Even fishing was done with long poles and nets from the cliffs. But Jack had dived in, stayed under for minutes, and came back with a smile. She remembered his words. Maybe they're just waiting for someone brave enough to come say hello. Was it bravery or madness? The fire crackled. Someone laughed. Still, she could not join them. She looked at her hand. It still trembled. Not from fear, but from something else. From the feeling that everything she knew was beginning to shift. In the morning, she found Jack near the southern rocks, his hands deep in a repair panel. Part of the research station was still broken from the last storm. He glanced up. "You didn't run off screaming, that's a good sign." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked closer and sat on a nearby stone. "Why are you here, really?" she asked. He paused. "You mean, on this planet?" "Yes." "Why Valeth?" He wiped oil off his fingers and looked at the sea. "The answer is strange," he said. "But I came because I saw something in a dream." She frowned. "A dream brought you to our world?" "A place in my dream looked just like this shore," he said. "Blue water, tall cliffs, glowing lights under the surface." "You dream of the glowing ruins?" she asked, eyes widening. He blinked. "You've seen them too?" Lyra looked away. She wasn't supposed to talk about it. Once, as a child, she saw strange shapes glowing below the water at sunset. Her mother told her never to speak of it again. "They say the lights belong to the sleeping ones," she whispered. "Who are they?" "No one knows. Not even the elders." Jack stood up and walked to the edge of the cliff. The wind brushed through his wet hair. "I think someone put something here," he said. "Long ago, and I think it's waking up." Lyra followed him slowly. Her heart was heavy. "You're not afraid?" she asked. Jack turned, looking at her, with steady eyes. "I am, but I'm more curious than afraid." She nodded. There was silence between them for a moment, just the ocean below moving, breathing. Then he said something that made her breath catch. "I want to go back down, to the ruins. I want to explore them." Lyra shook her head. "No one can enter. The deep is cursed." "You said that before," he replied. "But I'm not cursed, I came back. That doesn't mean it will happen again. Maybe. Or maybe it means there's a secret waiting to be found." Lyra stepped back. "If the elders find out, they'll exile you." Jack looked at her again, serious this time. "Then maybe you should come with me. See it for yourself." She stared at him. Her thoughts were a storm. Everything about him was strange. The way he smiled at danger. The way he talked about the sea. But worst of all, the way she wanted to believe him. "What would I see down there?" she asked. He took a deep breath. "Lights, shapes, walls made of a metal I don't recognize. Writing that looks half human, half alien. And something deeper, something I haven't reached yet." She felt cold. "You've been there already?" "Just the edge." "I didn't go far, but I felt something. Like a voice inside my head. Not words, just a pull." Lyra backed away. "You're not normal," she said quietly. He smiled again. "Maybe not." She turned and started walking. Her steps were fast, almost like she was fleeing. But in her mind, she wasn't running from Jack. She was running from herself, because deep down, she didn't just believe him. She wanted to see it. 2. They think he's a myth. The village drums were silent. Smoke from the night fires still curled into the gray morning sky. And yet, a storm was already brewing, not in the clouds, but in the minds of the people. Word had spread fast. Lyra had been seen near the cliff edge, alone with the human. Worse, the boy who carried water from the well claimed he saw Jack dive into the sea, and then come out alive. It was a story that should have been laughed off, but no one was laughing. In the heart of the village, the elders sat in a circle, their robes heavy with the dust of old tradition. The oldest among them, Varun, held a long walking staff made from bone wood, carved with warning signs. He tapped it once against the stone floor. The sound echoed like thunder. "No one returns from the sea," he said. "But the human did," another elder replied, voice thin with doubt. "Then he is not human," Varun answered coldly. "Or he is cursed." In the shadows, Lyra stood. With her head low, her hands were clenched at her sides. She didn't speak. "Not yet." "What did you see, child?" Varun asked, turning toward her. His eyes were clouded but sharp enough to pierce truth from silence. Lyra swallowed hard. Then she spoke. "He went under the water," she said, "and came back. He was smiling. And he held a piece of our lost machine," the circle murmured. Some faces showed fear, others, interest. "This is the second time," Varun said. "The last time he pulled a child from the river's mouth, and the river calmed." "I was there," said another villager. "I saw the child coughing, water in her lungs, and the human beat her back to life like some old rite." Varun's face darkened. "They called him a deep walker once," he whispered. "I thought it was nonsense. But now, I wonder." The word deepwalker was not used lightly. It was older than memory, older than most carvings in the elder books. It referred to a being that walked freely between worlds, land, water, dream, and death. It was a myth, or so they believed. Until now. Outside the village, far away from the fire circles and stone walls, Jack worked quietly near the coast. He wasn't fixing machines today. He was carving something into the rock near the southern ridge, not words, just shapes, concentric circles, lines crossing through waves, a triangle resting beneath them. It had come to him in a dream. When he looked up, he wasn't surprised to see Lyra standing behind him. "You're not hiding," she said. "Should I be?" "They're meeting now. The elders. They think you're something else." Jack nodded. "I guess they might. They called you Deepwalker." He chuckled softly. "Has a nice ring to it. They might exile you. Wouldn't be the first time." She frowned. "You've been exiled before?" He looked at her with a tired smile. "Not officially. But when you grow up on a planet that's dying and you ask too many questions, people stop listening." He stood up and brushed stone dust from his hands. "Back on Earth, water is normal," he said. "We drink it. We swim in it. We even fear it during floods. But we never call it cursed." "But here it is cursed," she whispered. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe someone wanted you to believe that, to keep you away." "Keep us away from what?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he looked out at the horizon. Sunlight broke through the clouds in beams, turning the water to gold. "When I touched the ruins," he said slowly, "something touched back." Her breath caught. "You went that deep?" "Only for a moment." The wall lit up, and for a second, I felt like something inside the ocean was awake and watching. Lyra looked at him carefully. She didn't know if she believed him, but she wanted to. The wind blew harder, gulls cried overhead, and from the village, the drums began to beat, a single, low rhythm. It meant the elders had made their decision. Jack turned to Lyra. "What will they do?" he asked. "They will ban you from the village," she said. "If you return, they might stone you." He raised an eyebrow. So much for friendly neighbors. Lyra hesitated, then stepped closer. I want to go with you, she said. He looked surprised. Why? Because I saw the lights too, when I was a child. But they told me to forget. Jack nodded slowly. Some things we're not meant to forget. A moment passed between them. Not full of words, but something stronger, something shared. Then he held out a strange black mask with a tube attached. Can you hold your breath? He asked. Not long, she said. Then we'll cheat. He smiled. This will help. She stared at the device, her hands trembled. But she took it. Behind them, the sea shimmered, like it had been waiting. Below the surface. The truth waits. The stars were hidden that night. Clouds stretched across the sky like a great gray veil. The moon was only a pale blur behind them. No firelight flickered. No drums echoed from the village. Silence ruled the cliffs. Jack stood at the edge of the ocean, checking the straps of his diving pack. He worked in the dark, calm and quiet, as if he had done this 100 times. But inside his heart beat louder than the waves. Not because he was afraid, not of the water, but because tonight, he was not diving alone. Behind him, Lyra approached, slowly. Her cloak was gone, her tunic tied tightly. Her bare feet felt the cold stone as the sea breeze cut through her. She held the breathing mask Jack gave her earlier, staring at it like it was a foreign animal. It's normal to feel nervous, Jack said without turning around. It's not just nerves, she replied softly. It feels like betrayal. Jack looked over his shoulder. Betrayal? To my people, to my teachings, to everything I've been told since I could walk. They say the sea hides old sins. If we go too deep, we awaken them. Jack stood and faced her fully. And if the sea hides truths instead? He asked. What if someone made your people forget? Lyra lowered her eyes. The mask in her hands trembled. Then, without a word, she nodded. They moved to the edge together. Jack showed her how to fit the mask, how to breathe slowly through the tube. He explained the hand signals, when to rise, when to stop, when something went wrong. But none of those lessons could prepare her for what came next. Jack slipped into the water first, silent as a shadow. Then he turned, extended his hand toward her. Lyra hesitated. Her reflection wavered on the surface. She didn't recognize herself. The girl in the water looked like a ghost, half warrior, half memory. She took his hand, and the sea swallowed her whole. At first she panicked. Water closed around her like a living thing. It was cold, much colder than she expected. Darker, too. The mask pressed against her face, her breathing loud inside her head. Her arms flailed, trying to fight the weight of her fear. Then Jack's hand squeezed hers, firm, steady. She looked toward him. He floated so easily, like he belonged here. He pointed downward. Lyra followed his gaze, and the world below opened up. Strange, glowing shapes danced in the deep. Blue lights, green pulses. Long, smooth lines of metal stretched across the seabed, like giant bones. Towers rose from the darkness, cracked and worn, yet still glowing in places. Vines of glowing coral wrapped around them like veins. It didn't feel dead. It felt asleep. And something was beginning to stir. Jack led the way, swimming slowly between broken pillars. Every movement was careful. Lyra followed, wide-eyed, forgetting, to fear. The ruins were massive, far bigger than she imagined. Her people always spoke of the deep as empty, a grave. But this place, this was a city. No, more than that. This was something built to last forever. On one large stone platform, Jack stopped. He placed a hand on a strange circle of symbols. The lines lit up under his fingers. Lyra nearly screamed through her mask. The lights weren't just glowing. They were responding. Pulses of energy spread across the wall, forming shapes. A tall humanoid, long limbs, strange armor, not alien, not Valithi. Human. The wall showed images. Humans walking among these structures, working with tall machines. Some of the machines hovered, others glided like fish. The water didn't seem to matter. These people were not visitors. They were home. Jack turned to Lyra. Her eyes were full of questions, but no voice could speak them here, so she pointed at the image, then at him. He nodded. The symbols on the wall shifted again. And this time, something deeper happened. The ocean trembled. A low sound, not from above, but from below, rolled through the water like thunder. Dust rose from the cracks of the stone floor. Small fish scattered in every direction. Lights from deeper structures blinked to life. Then something moved in the dark below them. Not a fish, not a ruin. Something large. Jack grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her upward. They kicked hard toward the surface. Light grew stronger. Bubbles shot around them like stars in a rushing sky. Just before breaking through, Lyra turned her head. She saw it, a huge shape, round and smooth, rising from the shadows. Not flesh, not stone. Metal. It was waking up. They broke the surface, gasping. Jack pulled off his mask first, then helped Lyra. She clung to a floating rock, her breath sharp. What? What was that? She managed to say between gasps. Jack stared, back at the waves. His voice was low. Something built by humans, he said. A long time ago. Why is it waking up now? He looked at her. Because we found it. It knew his name. The wind was sharp when they reached the shore again. Night had not lifted, but the sea no longer felt the same. The waves moved with purpose now, like they carried a message in every curl, every crash. Lyra collapsed on the wet rocks, coughing hard. Her limbs were shaking, her chest burned, and her eyes still held the image of the giant shape rising from the deep. Jack sat beside her, silent. His face was pale, not with fear, but with recognition. He knew what they had seen. Lyra turned to him, her voice low and broken. What was that thing? It wasn't alive, was it? Jack shook his head slowly. No, not in the way we are. It's a machine. Old, sleeping, maybe even damaged. But it's not dead. Lyra pulled her knees close. It saw us. Jack nodded. It did. It followed us. He didn't answer. Then, in the quiet, something strange happened. The small silver device Jack had pulled from the water the first day, the broken scanner module, began to glow. Dim at first, then brighter. Lines of light ran across its surface. It buzzed, clicked, and then it spoke. Not in the alien tongue, not in Valithi, but in a language that Lyra could not understand. One that was old and cold and filled with mechanical rhythm. But Jack understood, because it said his name. Jack Reinhardt. Confirmed. Lyra jolted upright. What did it say? Jack's breath caught in his throat. It knows me, he whispered. Lyra stared at him like he was a stranger. How? How can that thing know your name? Jack reached for the scanner. His hand hovered above it, almost afraid to touch. The voice spoke again. Project Hydra. Reactivation pending. Last human key confirmed. Awaiting protocol command. Jack sat back, his legs trembling now. This is impossible, he muttered. This project, it was just a theory. A whisper in old Earth files. What is Project Hydra? Lyra asked. He looked at her, eyes wide. A human experiment, one of the oldest. Long before Valeth was charted. Before your kind even left the deserts. It was a plan to spread early human tech into unclaimed star systems. Hidden places. Places like this. But why? She asked. For safety, Jack said. In case humanity ever vanished nor was hunted, the words felt heavy in the air. Vanished. Hunted. Lyra stood, unsteady. You think this world was part of that plan? Jack nodded. Yes, it explains the architecture, the machines, the lights, the writing, everything we saw. It was human, but older than anything we've ever recorded. He turned to her, voice low. Your people might be living on top of a human fallback world. Lyra blinked. You mean, my people? We were not the first? You may not even be the second, Jack said. And now something's waking up. Something that thinks, I'm a key. She looked at the sea. The waves had calmed again, but deep down she felt it and the hum beneath the surface. Something massive. Aware. What does it want from you? She asked. Jack shook his head. I don't know. But it's waiting. They didn't return to the village. Jack and Lyra made camp near the western cliff caves. Small and hidden, the place was safe from watchful eyes. Jack worked all night, linking the glowing scanner to his old ship console. The data was encrypted, but the machine kept repeating the same phrases. Core sequence incomplete. Human confirmation required. Wake command pending. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw the giant shape again, rising through the dark. And in the silence, a voice. Not from his ears, but from inside. His head, whispering a word that was not a word, a name that was not a name, Hydra. By morning, Lyra returned from gathering roots and water. Her expression was tight. My people are searching for me, she said. They know I've disappeared with you. The elders fear I've been corrupted. Jack didn't look up. They may be right. She stepped closer. You're not a curse, Jack. You're a question. He gave a tired smile. A question even I don't know the answer to. A silence settled between them. Then Jack looked up. I need to go back down. Lyra blinked. Already? Whatever's beneath that city, it wants something from me. And I think it's important. Not just for me, but for your people, too. You think the machine will speak again? He nodded. I think it's waiting for my voice. What if it wants more than that? She asked. Jack stood slowly. His eyes were calm now. His fear was still there. But it walked beside him, not in front. Then I'll give it what it wants, he said. And if it doesn't stop? Lyra whispered. What if waking it brings war? He looked toward the sea. Then we better find out before it's too late. In the far distance, deep beneath the ocean, unseen by both, the giant metal shape opened its eyes, not with light, but with recognition. A signal pulsed through the water, and others began to stir. The Guardian's awakening began with a low hum, not loud, not sudden, just a soft vibration under the earth, like a hidden drum beating in a forgotten rhythm. Jack and Lyra felt it while standing near the water's edge, their eyes scanning the surface. It wasn't wind, it wasn't waves. It came from below, deep below, where the sun never reached and no living creature dared to go. Jack dropped to one knee, pressing his hand against the wet stone. The hum was getting stronger. It moved up his fingers into his bones. It's starting, he said. Lyra stepped back. Her heart was racing. What do you mean, starting? He looked up, face pale but focused. The Hydra protocol. It's waking up the Guardians. Guardians? She repeated. What are they guarding? Jack stood slowly. The final key, or the final warning. They went into the water again, this time without fear, only urgency. Jack wore his rebreather mask, now synced with the strange data pulsing from the machine. Lyra followed closely, her hand never far from his. The water was darker this time, and colder. Small fish were gone. The ocean had gone silent. And then, far below, the lights returned. Not from the ruins, from the Guardians. They moved like shadows at first, massive shapes circling in the depths. Some looked like large serpents made of metal and glass, weaving through the broken towers. Others were like walking tanks with glowing cores and long arms that sparked with stored energy. Jack froze mid-swim. He had read about them once, in an old Earth file marked Red Level Clearance. The Guardians were not just protectors. They were weapons, autonomous, self-repairing, able to rewrite their orders if no humans remained. "They're scanning," Jack said, pulling Lyra closer. "They're checking if we're threats." "What if they think I am?" she asked, voice shaking through the mask. Jack turned to her, eyes fierce. "Then stay behind me. Don't move unless I do." One of the serpent-shaped machines swam closer, its glowing eyes locking onto Jack. A beam of blue light shone from its chest, washing over them. Lyra flinched. The beam lingered, then dimmed. The machine backed away. "It accepted me," Jack whispered, "but just barely." More shapes came now. A dozen, then more behind them. The ruins came alive with silent movement. The ocean was no longer quiet. It was full of power, watching from all sides. Then the main tower opened. A round, metal gate covered in ancient human markings, split slowly in two. From within came a slow burst of air bubbles and a strange glowing mist that floated in the water like smoke. The hum grew louder. Jack pointed. "That's it. The core." He swam toward it. Lyra followed, every part of her body shaking, not from cold, but from the feeling that they were walking into something no one was meant to disturb. Inside the gate, they found a chamber. Wide, round, smooth walls, lined with blinking panels. No corrosion, no damage. It was untouched by time. In the center, a seat, not a throne, not a command chair, but something that felt like both. Jack approached it. He hovered in the water above it, then reached out his hand. The seat lit up, and a voice filled the chamber. "Jack Reinhardt. Final human operator detected, initiating legacy transfer." Lyra turned in a panic. "What is it doing?" "I don't know," Jack said, voice rough. "But it's inside my head now." Symbols appeared around him, floating lights. They moved like thoughts. Lines of human and alien script blended together, spinning faster and faster. Jack's eyes glowed. His body tensed. Lyra reached for him, but the water pushed her back. A deep voice boomed, deeper than anything she had ever heard. "Prepare for full activation. Conflict detected. Planetary status compromised. Solution: engage. Defense sequence. Unlock deep fleet." The ruins began to shake. Walls cracked open to reveal more machines. Missile pods, satellite cores, weapons hidden in silence, all waking. Lyra screamed, bubbles rising from her mask. "Jack, stop it. They'll attack my people." He turned to her, but his eyes weren't normal. They were glowing with blue light. I can't stop it," he said. "I'm not controlling it. It's responding to a threat." "What threat?" she cried. He blinked. Slowly, painfully. "It thinks your people invaded, after humans died out." Up above, near the cliffs, Vilithi sentries spotted strange lights in the sea. They backed away, afraid, but the elders stepped forward and saw the ocean rise. Metal towers broke through the surface, sharp and tall, alien to the eye, yet human at the core. Then came the voices, not speech, not music, but commands, and from the heart of the ruins, the fleet began to rise. Not one, not two, but hundreds, machines built to fight, protect, and destroy. The Guardians had awakened, and they were looking for orders. Rise of the Deepwalker. The ocean boiled. Metal towers pierced the surface like rising teeth, their glowing spires flashing with light. Waves crashed outward in every direction. The sky turned pale from the energy lifting into the air. Birds fled, wind screamed, and the people of Valeth stood frozen at the cliffs, staring down at something their stories had never prepared them for. Not monsters, not gods. Machines. Machines that had waited for centuries for a voice they could trust. And that voice was human. Beneath the waves inside the core chamber, Jack floated in silence. The lights around him spun faster now, like stars caught in a storm. Symbols raced past his vision, not on screens, but in his mind. Lyra hovered outside the glowing field, reaching for him again and again, but the force around his body pulsed with energy. It kept her out. "Jack," she cried. "Stop it, please. They think we're invaders." His lips moved slowly. His eyes were strange, not blue anymore, but silver, glowing from deep inside. "They won't listen to me," he said. "They're not just machines anymore, they're memory. Memory. They hold the pain of a lost empire. They remember when humans fell, when the last colonies went silent. They were told to wait for one of us to return. And now I have. So they obey. And they fear." Lyra's voice cracked. "Fear what?" "That what happened before is happening again." He looked at her, and for a moment she saw the Jack she remembered, the one who laughed when he came out of the sea, the one who offered her a mask and a chance to see what no Vilithi had seen in generations. But now, he was more than that. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was a key. And the door was open. Above, on the cliffs, the tribe panicked. Some dropped to their knees, praying. Others ran toward the hills. The elders stood their ground, but their faces were pale. Varun raised his staff toward the sea and shouted, "The old sins return, you should have stayed buried." But the ocean didn't listen. From the water, great machines rose higher, shaped like ships but alive with light. They floated on invisible currents, hovering just above the waves. Below each, rows of weapons gleamed in the morning sun. Yet, they did not fire, they waited. Deep below, the core spoke once more. Conflict state, unresolved. Human directive required. Proceed. Eliminate threat or restore coexistence. Jack floated in the center of the light, breathing slowly. "They're asking me to choose," he whispered. "They trust me, even though I don't know if I deserve it." Lyra swam close, tears in her eyes. "Then choose peace. Choose life. Don't let the machines do what your ancestors feared." Jack looked down at his hands. He remembered Earth, not as it was, but through stories. His parents' voices, faded photos, rain on glass, oceans that stretched forever. He was born on a ship, raised in data, trained in silence. But now, here, beneath alien waves, he finally felt real. He reached forward, touched the final symbol, and the lights stopped spinning. The sky shifted. Above, the ships paused. Then slowly, their weapons folded away. Lights dimmed, towers retracted. One by one, the machines powered down, sinking peacefully back into the ocean like giants going back to sleep. The sea grew calm again. On the cliffs, silence fell. The wind whispered. Varun fell to his knees, not from fear, but from relief. Jack and Lyra rose to the surface together, breaking through the water with a quiet splash. They floated side by side, watching the last of the machines vanish below. "You stopped it," Lyra whispered. "No," Jack said. "We stopped it." She looked at him, eyes full of wonder. "What are you now?" she asked. He smiled. It was tired, but true. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe just a deep walker." Days passed. The village changed, slowly, carefully. Lyra brought the truth to her people. Stories of ancient humans, of machines that guarded, not hunted, of a world that once held two paths, fear and understanding. Many still doubted, but the sea remained quiet, and Jack never left. He made a home near the cliffs, not as a god, not as a ghost, but as a bridge. A human who spoke to the past and walked into the future. Sometimes when the moon was bright and the tide low, Lyra would visit the shore and see him standing knee-deep in the water, speaking softly to the waves. And sometimes the ocean spoke back,